Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. This feels strange, doesn't it? Nobody really knows what day it is. People are forgetting it's Monday, forgetting whether it's Sunday or Saturday or everything else. We played on a Saturday as well. It's even more confusing, on an Easter weekend. But I hope everyone's had a good weekend, a good extended, long 2 bank holidays in there as well. So as always, get your thoughts in. I know there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of opinions as well as we get through this one. We're going to talk a little bit about the running as well. Those fateful, or dreaded, whatever you want to call it, 3/4 games now. That we did pick out at the start of the season as well, but even more important now. Let's see how everyone is. Barry, how was your weekend been? It's been all right?
That's been busy, been good though. So can't complain really, can you? United women won. United men just do what United men do. And Steelers women beat at the top of the table Luton. So we'll have some of that. Feeling very happy.
There we go. Not too bad. Charlie, yourself?
A bit anticlimactic, if I'm being honest, because I was at both United senior side games this weekend and didn't see a single goal for our side. So, busy weekend watching lots of football, but a bit of a disappointing one, if I'm being honest.
I was going to say, that's pretty depressing for you, isn't it? Down to West Ham and then up to Old Trafford and neither got... Were you there on Thursday for the men's?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh, so you missed the really big, exciting one.
Yeah.
And went to the two ones with no goals. Jeez, that's not good. There we go. Right, let's start with obviously we're going to talk a bit about the game. As if you watch the game, we're going to try and talk about this for as long as we can, but not a lot happens. We're not going to have loads to talk about, I'm sure, but we'll find stuff as we always do. Very quickly, I don't think there's going to be anything on this. I'm pretty sure it's unchanged side again. Anything on the lineup itself? Did we expect any changes, or are we kind of at that point in the season where that's the team now?
It was what I expected. I think I didn't even look at it before because I just thought it would be the same 11 that that it has been for the last few games. Particularly with the midfield, I thought he would stick with it, go more attacking, which is bizarre when there was very little attacking threat really throughout the game. I'm trying to work out what's happening with Dominique Janssen now, longer term. I think that'll be an interesting one to see how that plays out because she's only getting 10 minutes here or there now. But yeah, not surprised by the lineup that you went with at all.
It is strange. Dom's the only one for me where I look at, because the rest of the team, I know we spoke about Sandberg and Gabby George, but I think because Dom for me didn't do anything wrong. She's kind of just dropped out of the team to get Grace back in the team, and I don't think Grace has been. I don't think she's been bad either, but I don't think she's been exceptional enough to keep Janssen out of the side. It's strange. Janssen played pretty much every minute in all competitions, not just WSL, in all comps until recently, and now she's just kind of getting 10 minutes here or there. But it does happen. It's not unusual.
I would say with that, welcome to the magical world of management, which is where basically it doesn't matter what you do, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If we rewind, as Craig David once did, as the crowd said, Bo, selector, we would realise that right at the very beginning, everybody was whinging that Dominique Janssen was playing centre mid. She shouldn't be playing centre mid. That's not where she should be. She should be in the middle of defence. And then we ended up with a really good defensive record, as we had previously. As in the last time we had a good season. And I think that's really quite important to remember, that she was doing all right. But then, of course, Hinnie came in, had a game, did all right. Grace was phenomenal at the start of the season. Yes, she dropped off a little bit, but she's still probably one of those players who, going forward, offers us a little bit of a spark. She is often looking for the ball and looking for a shot. And just lovely to see Charlie trying to do stuff surreptitiously off camera. It's absolutely brilliant.
Evelyn keeps coming in to tell me what William's starting lineup on FIFA is. So he's just opened a pack with Fallon, tullis-joyce. There's much excitement. I could hear the squealing downstairs, and then I heard her bounding up. So I was muting my mic as quick as possible. She's burst in. I'm doing this off camera.
To be fair, important breaking news. Fallon tullis-joyce starting in the Connor household. Love that. But I think all of those things lead to where you are now. You've got people saying you can't play Clinton and Toon. Some people want to see Toon dropped. Some people want to see Toon play. Some people want to see Clinton dropped. The simple fact is, he is never going to please everybody. And at this stage of the season, he's just got to do what he thinks is right. And I don't think you can argue with that 3. What an option to have on the bench, by the way, to be able to bring on someone like Dom. So, I think people will make that discussion, but really, I think the term we'd use for that is nitpicking.
Yeah, I think that's fair. As I said, I think you could ask 100 different people, and each 100 will probably have a different midfield 3. My midfield 3 is different because I would go Dom, Hinney, and Toon. Other people would go Grace, Toon, and Dom. Some people would go Grace, Toon, and Hinney, Dom, and like everyone's going to have a different 3 combination. And I think it's just where we're at. And like I said, with only 3 games to go now, it's not going to change. That'll be our team, barring injuries. That'll be the team now until the end of the season, I'm sure. On that one, I'm going to put the player of the match poll in the chat early this time. It's I say early, but no, it is early. We never really put it in 5 minutes in, but it is in there. We can't lie. We were really struggling for. We had 2 names pretty much nailed on in Jay Riviere and Celine Bizet, and then we were kind of thinking, who else can we put on there? So Fallon, tullis-joyce, and Mela Tissier are the other 2 on there because we can keep a clean sheet, and Fallon is technically the Golden Glove winner now, so it feels only right to have her on there as well, albeit she didn't have loads to do. It is another clean sheet, so that's the 4 this week. Oh, it's closer than I thought. This could be quite interesting. This I didn't expect it to be close as it is. There we go. This could be quite fun. To get all your votes in on that, and we'll come back to that towards the end of the show. Right, first half then, as we always do, so kind of do this in some kind of order. Because I can't lie, I don't know which half was better than the other. To be honest, they both felt very samey. Because I don't remember us having loads of chances. I know the stats say that we had 17 shots. Me and Charlie were talking about this before the game. I don't remember them, if I'm being honest. I don't remember 17, that's for sure. But Charlie, I'll come to you first. I'm going to do this. I'm going to flip this between both of you. who goes first this time? But Charlie, in terms of the first half, what did you make of it? Because we had lots of the ball. I don't think that was ever an issue. And the only chance of note I can remember was Bizet off the bar.
Yes.
What did you make of that whole kind of first half there?
I thought it was. I don't think much happened. Like, I noticed which half was better. I think probably the second half was marginally better. I just think it was really slow, and what had worked against other sides, which was because we saw it work against City, didn't we, in the cup, where Maya was playing the long balls over the top, and Tooney to an extent as well when she received it a little bit deeper to the wingers, worked really well. Didn't work so well this time. I thought West Ham set up really well to stop us from having as much success in the first half doing that, and there didn't seem to be an alternative route in attacking and getting forwards, which is strange, I think, because when you look at the midfield 3 that he went with, they're all very good on the ball. So Miyazawa, Toon, and Clinton. And I think we spent quite a lot of time just bypassing them completely. Because I think if you're going to go for that 3, there's got to be, you clearly want the creative element of it, and you want that option of being able to work through the middle, don't you, as well as just having the wide options. We were just bypassing them a lot, and it didn't feel like to me they were getting on the ball enough, or certainly not in and around the 18-yard box, and which felt wasteful and like a little bit of a shame. And you would then say, well, we had most joy down the wings, but because that's where the ball was going literally every single time. So you're going to pick up joy here or there when you're doing that. But there was just no. I just had. I saw someone at football who we see at quite a few games, Connor, and she said, "What do you think the score's going to be?" And I was like, "Ooh, I think we might nick a 1-0." Because I just had, and she sort of was like, no, got to get the goal difference. But I just had this feeling, because whenever we go to West Ham, apart from a couple of seasons ago when I think we won 2-0, Blundell and Garcia might have scored, I think we've always found it difficult there for whatever reason. Oh, there we go. Molly and Stanley agree, earlier than normal. But yeah, it was just a bit slow and nothing, and lacking creativity, which for me is mad when you think about who our midfield 3 were, to say that we were lacking creativity. But that was them not getting the ball. They weren't seeing the ball in the first half.
It's interesting you say. I want to come back to our kind of pass in a second, because I know Ivo's just put in the chat about the ball spent 90% of the time in the air, and I've just gone to. I'm going to check this, but I'm pretty sure that's our most attempted long balls in a game as well. I've gone back to 7 games so far. I've not gone back further than that, so I'll fact check that in a second. But you are right to point out about West Ham away, because obviously we drew this season, we drew away last season, we won the season before, but then we drew away the season before that as well. So we've drawn the last 3 out of 4 there. So it's not a place we go to and win a lot. Barry, in terms of the first half there, Charlie's raised some good points there, particularly about the midfield. You know, it's a technical midfield. You know, on the ball, that is probably our best 3, certainly the most dynamic 3. But we just didn't seem to, aside from maybe a few crosses from the right side, didn't create masses of amounts, I don't think. Like I said, aside from that Salim one, which kind of was a bit of a mix-up in the box that just fell to her in the end.
I mean, again, you talk out of 17 shots. I think the key thing to do with that was the fact that only 5 of them are on target. So you don't really tend to remember the ones that fly incredibly wide or over or any of those types of things. I think Truth makes quite a good point insofar as the ball did spend a fair bit of time in the air, and it would. And the reason why it spent the time in the air is because there was lots of trying to get in behind, using a bit of pace, and a lot of crosses. And I think the crosses, I mean, that's the most crosses we've had in a WSL game, isn't it? So it was a bit of a record that we've set in there. And you kind of want them to happen, but the type of crosses really matter. They have to be pinpoint or they have to be dangerous. And I think a lot of them are like floaty-woaty crosses. So they come in nicely and you can get your head to it, but you've then really got to have some exceptionally strong neck muscles to be able to generate any power with it. So therefore, you're really doing either a loop-in header or you're guiding it into a particular destination. And I think really when you look at some of the chances that we had with the head, they were either going over, they were easily caught by the goalkeeper. There was 1 or 2 chances that she saves that were quite good. But I think the issue really with that is that we are creating some chances. We just didn't have the ability to put them away. So that leaves you then with the argument, are the crosses wrong? Or are the people that are supposed to be on the end of the crosses not doing the job to the level that they should be doing? Now, that's not necessarily an argument that I've got a dog in the fight for or an answer for, but they're certainly the questions that I would bring up on that one. Again, Truth mentioning the set pieces and the corners. You don't look at them anymore. You know, I'll hark back to it. When Katie Zellum took a corner, there was anticipation in the air. I would wager there's not a huge amount of anticipation now when you've got a set piece to sit and watch, because it's more hope than anything else. You're not imagining that is definitely going to land where you want them to. So I think really that was the big issue. What I would say about that first half was, and again, the reason why you've done it, our right side is lethal, by the way. The way in which Jay Riviere and Celine Bizet are linking up is insane. It's just how good they have progressed to be. I know that I often come in here and joke with like on a who, but like genuinely on a who, because the right-hand side, I would argue, is up there at the moment as possibly the best right-hand side duo in the league at the moment, because they are just so dynamic. The way in which they move, it was honestly like watching Swan Lake. It's like poetry in motion. Like the ball comes into one of them and the way they move around, the way that they're bouncing off each other, the interplay that they've got, the knowledge of what the other person's going to do, the conversations that they have. There was acres of space on that right-hand side at times. And Jay Riviere knew exactly when to run. There was one moment she was playing centre-back effectively. She started off a little move, given the ball to Celine, and sees there's so much room. So she just puts the afterburners on, gives it the old, all right, go for it. In goes the ball. Just the interplay between them is just brilliant. And I think that's an important thing to point out, is just how good that right-hand side is at the moment. So I think there's a hell of a lot of positives. And we've got to remember, this is a West Ham side that drew with Chelsea. You know, these aren't no Muppets. They're not mugs. They're not people that haven't been performing well lately. Their last few games have been absolutely brilliant. And contrary to popular opinion, it's not easy to go out there and beat a Chelsea or draw with a Chelsea. So, I think they deliberately made it difficult for us. A point for them was like gold dust. They knew that we needed the 3 points because we wanted to go and chase Arsenal. We wanted to keep with chase Chelsea, and we wanted to keep up the pace with Arsenal as well. They knew we wanted to pull away from City. They just sat in. And that is so hard to do. I don't think people sometimes understand how hard that can be to break down a side that's just going to resolutely just sit there. Charlie will get this because she's got dogs. But it's like when you get a really big dog, a fat dog, a dog who, if it don't want to move, ain't moving. So you take it for a walk. If it decides, no, I'm staying here, that's it. It's game over. And that's what trying to get through the defence is like. You've got to try and tempt it with a little bit of meat or something and go, come on, let's go. Because without that, it ain't happening. So that was my opinion on it, really.
I think that's the important thing to note. Like that's what I said at the start, and that's why I put it in the title, which we'll come back to properly. But in terms of West Ham, like that, I said this after we got to Wembley a couple of weeks ago after City, that I was more worried about this game than I was about the final three. Because one, we just don't have a good record there. Two, West Ham are taking scalps off anyone in the top half of the table, it seems, and are now on track to finish in the top half as well. Which someone did ask me earlier if I'm happy that Brighton are looking like they're going to drop out the top six. Yes, I am. I can't wait to. I've got all my receipts and everything else for that. When everyone was telling me Brighton were going to finish top six, I wasn't having it, and I stood by it. And they're not going to. It doesn't. Well, they might still, but we'll wait and see how their final few games go. But it's looking like they're going to drop out of it. But just very quick, while you brought up the right side, I wanted to. Something I was going to mention actually in terms of this, and Charlie, I'll come to you on this one. You mentioned obviously the crosses and things like that. So it is the highest we've ever put in a WSL game. Sky Sports had it as 27. I've got it as 31, and I trust this stat site a lot more than I think Sky. Sorry, Sky, if there's anyone watching from there, but 31 in total. 15 of them are between Jade and Celine. Celine put 8 in. Jade put 8 in. Celine put 7 in. Ella Toon put 6. And our left side only put 6 in total. So that's less than both of them together. So 6 from the left, 15 from the right. You can see that imbalance just in the crosses alone, that we do rely on that side a lot to get the ball in. And to be fair, I agree with Barry in the first half. I think the crosses were not as good. I think second half, though, some of those crosses were brilliant. But the forwards are just so off the pace. They just weren't in there to get on the end of it.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I don't mind so much that there was an imbalance with regards to which side of the pitch they were coming from. That's not, I maybe I don't know enough about it. It doesn't worry me massively. What was the bigger frustration was the disjointed approach, what looked like a disjointed approach into how players would attack the box when those balls were coming in. Because you're right, some of them were brilliant. And all it needed was Galton or Mallard, whoever it was, to attack the back post where the ball was heading towards and just take a touch and it would have gone in. Because it reads really badly when you see that there were that many crosses. You just think, oh, crikey, like hitting the first man, going hoofing them straight out. But there were really good ones. They just weren't getting on the end of them because they were all attacking the same area. Because I think you were saying before, like, I don't often watch any sort of match reaction stuff, men's or women's, unless it's a Thursday night and we've just won some mad game, 6-5, whatever it was. But Matt Beard was saying the amount of good crosses that were into the box, but the players just weren't attacking it. And I just think, is that a game sense football intelligence thing from the players, or is that we don't really practice this, so players instinctively run into the same place because individually that's where they're thinking they need to aim for? So it was frustrating in that regard. I'm just going back a little bit as well, if you don't mind. Just Barry was talking about the set pieces. It was quite frustrating because people were talking about the wind and stuff, and maybe that played a part. But there was like things with the corners, which didn't have loads. I had like 3 or 4, but I feel like they were all these short corners that you think, okay, if you're going to play it quickly, get it to a player on the 18-yard box. We've got 3 or 4 players that can smash it in from 18 yards, like, haven't we? Loads of them. But then it was like playing it short and then still not putting a good cross in. That there's nothing I hate more than trying to do trickery from a corner and it doesn't go in the box at any point. Like, that really grind. That's like one of my Room 101 things for football. It's worse than hitting it first time and hits the first man. It really winds me up when you play it short and then do nothing with it. because it's like, you didn't really know what you were going to do with this when you took the short corner. You were just hoping something was going to happen. So it was just frustrating. I know I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but I did want to say that when Barry was talking. I didn't want to interrupt him because he was mid-flow, and I love listening to him. But yeah, I think the issue with the crosses was how we were attacking them or not attacking them. In some cases, it was frustrating. There was one where I think Mallard picked up quite well, jumping into the second half here. Sorry, Connor. And it looked for all the world like she was going to score, but it just went wide of the far post, which was disappointing. And I think maybe if she was a little bit more match sharp, because she's not had many minutes, which is maybe a discussion for another time, she might have buried that. But yeah, frustrating to have decent opportunities created and not have players anywhere near them to try and put them away.
I think just on the set pieces, so we had 6 in total. 5 of them were in the first half. Gabby took 3 and Ella took 3. But as George said there, 3 of them go back to the centre-backs anyway. Yeah. Now, a coach's reason, if I'm not a coach, but if I put my coach's hat on, they would say the reason why you do a short corner is to change the angle of the cross. That's the whole reason why people do short corners, is to change that angle. But if you're not putting the cross in, what is the point in changing the angle? Because you're literally just going back to the centre-back. The opposite West Ham defenders just move up 10 yards. Everyone's offside anyway if you stay in the position. So then you've got to go back. And it's just like, well, I don't quite know what we're doing here. Like, you've got a free chance here. And the only reason, because we've done this a lot this season, is that they don't trust themselves enough to put a good enough cross in. So they feel they have to do that to try and get a closer opportunity or a better chance of getting in. Because I can't lie to you, the other crosses that went in from corners weren't good either. So it's like...
It's almost as if set pieces isn't just a party trick. And actually, it does help if you have someone who's really good at taking them. There's another good point that someone's made, so I've gone past. It was Xavier, who I've not seen before, so he might be new. Apologies if you're not new, Xavier. Who talked about the fact that there's no cutbacks, so we don't do that. It was fairly one-dimensional. There was good crosses into the box, and yes, if someone had got on the end of it, brilliant, but they didn't. But there was very little variation in what was happening with that as well. When we talk about, there's a few people talking on X and Blue Sky and all those sorts of things, saying we've got lots of players, and they're absolutely spot on. I agree with them in my opinion, who have got a cracking strike on them from distance. I'm not talking about trying to shoot from 30 yards. We can't all do Grace Clinton every week, but we've got Miyazawa, Toon, Clinton, Janssen, Maya Letizier. We've got these players that have got a real good shot on them from 12 to 18 yards up to 20, maybe 25. They're not in the box. They're all on the edge of the box. So how about getting a heads up and doing a bit of a cutback, playing the ball back to them and getting a strike away? I don't know. It's one of those things where, isn't it, in hindsight, it's really annoying that those things didn't happen. Thank goodness City were woeful as well. But yeah, it's just those little things, isn't it? It's that little bit of game sense, isn't it? If you do the same thing over and over and again and it's not working, surely the right thing to do is to try and change things. And that doesn't always mean change the personnel, because if you're changing personnel to do the exact same thing the person before was doing, it's not really changing anything, is it? It's fresher legs maybe, but apart from that, it's not doing anything. So maybe things like cutbacks and stuff might be better, because then it gets those really talented players on the ball. Tooney, Clinton, it gets them on the ball closer to the goal, which is where we want them to be.
No, I definitely want to come back to that when we talk about the second half and a couple of the changes as well. But, Barry, I'll let you kind of follow on this. Obviously, Charlie's great. I mentioned about the crosses there that, the original starting point, the majority of the crosses, well, it's 3 times, when you're looking at the amount of crosses came from the right compared to the left in that respect. So it was pretty clear what our tactic was, get it out to the right and get a cross in. And something actually I was going to pick up on what you said in terms of Celine and Celine Bizet and Jade Rivier's link up. That's something Jade mentioned on the interview, that that's something they've worked on together. They understand each other. Jade knows when to go on an overlap or when to hold, and same with Celine. She knows when it's a one-on-one and whether to play the pass and everything else. I think that's massively important, because if you can get that all over the pitch, not just on the right, then you become incredibly hard to play, because you don't need to think about it. You just know where your partner's going to be in this respect. So I think that was a good point to make as well. But in terms of the crosses, Barry, what would you kind of say on that one? Because I said it was pretty clear. I'm pretty sure, I don't know the exact stat on it, but when you look at our chances created, whatever you want to call that as, all of them have come from a cross.
I mean, just going back to what you were just saying there about the understanding on the right. Well, this is the whole reason why I advocate so much for picking a team and sticking with it. because that's how you build that kind of understanding and chemistry between the players. So, you know, I think that's why it's been a successful season, because we've not been rotating the players too much. You know, if you ask you to name the team, you can name at least 8 of them, if not 9, pretty much every week. And that's vital towards building that sort of consistency, I think. But as I said, with regards to the crosses, this is the fattest pigeon I think I've ever seen in my life. It's unbelievable. I just thought he was going to mug me. He was that
in
big.
your house?
Not in my house. No, he's outside the window. He was
like looking.
thought it was a genuine person coming to take me away. The crosses were not ideal, and of course, most of them are going to come in from the right. And I think if you think about that logically as well, that would probably be a good reason as to why you've got Leah Galton at the moment down the left-hand side, because we all know how good she is at coming in at the far post and bopping the ball in the back of the net whilst doing a legendary fall of some type to eat as much grass as possible. So I think to me, that's a sensible thing. You're going to want the crosses to come in from the right-hand side. And I think Gabby George does a good effort as well at getting up there on the left. You know, I wouldn't necessarily have a go at her for how she performs down the left. Her first job is to defend, and I think she does that well. And we do see her trying to get forward. We see her getting involved as well in the crossing and all of those types of things. So personally, I'm not too worried. Not too worried at all about the side that they're going down. I'm just more worried about the quality. The quality's got to be good going forward. The quality's got to be better with the crosses. And that understanding that we've got going down the right-hand side, we need that same understanding between the people that are doing the crosses. My God, it's a good thing I'm dyslexic.
What's going on here?
It's some sort of rave.
She's doing my edit this. Bear with.
We're bearing, Big C. We're bearing. But it's honestly unbelievable. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think, Charlie, on that one. I think the quality of the cross and that understanding of where you're going to put it. You go back to the classic men's side with Beckham doing the crosses. People knew the area that he was going to put it in. Do you think there's a little bit of that they're just not sure? Oh, he is risen. There he is. Am I talking about Connor or the Quiff? Who knows? But
What's going on?
I can't work it out.
Yeah, maybe, but then, like, how do you not know? Like, it's not like it's going to go to the moon, is it? Like, that there has to, like, go back to the fact that, and yeah, you might be right. Like, might be that they have no idea where this ball's going to go in the box. But I think that might be true. That also is bonkers, because you still is the other attacking 3 at least. So Turland, Galton or Mallard or whoever it was, and then Williams when she was on. For goodness sake, don't all attack the exact same place. Like that to me was really frustrating. It was all attack the same place. And I'm sure we've talked about this, might have been this season or previous season, we've talked about this being an ongoing issue. Or no one attack anywhere at all. And it seems to be that sort of situation. Like we were right behind the goal where we were attacking the second half, and it was real frustration from people, the amount of times that the ball skimmed past the back post and there's nobody there. Like that happened multiple times. So as a fan who's not an expert, I've noticed that's happening. As a professional footballer, how has one of you not gone to those right guys? I'm gonna attack the back post every time a cross goes in. Celine, if it's coming in from my side, Celine, you're going to attack the back post. Why has no one said that?
But you're going to want at least 3 people to attack. You want one to be attacking and being a pest around the goalkeeper. You want somebody at the near post, somebody at the far post, so that the defence don't know where it's going to go as well. And then you need the old traditional Paul Scholes on the edge of the box as well. And we've got that. That's the whole purpose of it. You think about if Celine's got the ball, all right, Leah Galton's going to be far post. You'd expect to have Her Majesty being the main person down the middle, which then means you've got between Grace and Ella to decide which one's going near post and which one's going to hang back so they can swing a boot at it if it comes flying. And it's not rocket science, but going back to what you said about the corners, this is what people do. It's all so intricate now. Like the short corner idea, Connor talks about what the coaches would say. Simply put, yes, they are changing the angle. What they're also doing is they're making sure that when you put it in towards the back post, it's got a higher chance of just creeping in because you've got a better swing in towards it as well. And so you can make it look as if that's what you're going to do. And you keep it away from the goalkeeper a little bit more, I think, as well. So, but there's so many intricate, I mean, can you remember that? Let's see if we can block the goalkeeper. Like, they're all trying to come up with these smart things. And really, football doesn't need to evolve all that much. It's still the same game. Like, if you were to make a fried egg tomorrow, Charlie, you'd just whack it in the frying pan, wouldn't you?
Yes.
I sincerely doubt you're sitting there going, I've got a new gadget to get myself a fried egg. You get one. I see it all the time. Oh, people put things in a bag, stick that in there to make a poached egg. They're always coming up with these hacks. I see people drilling through flipping flip-flops and stuff to create stuff that you can put plugs on TikTok. And it's like these things exist. Like, they're constantly just trying to reinvent the wheel. And actually, I just don't think it's needed. Just get your people to attack so they're good at where they're attacking. What's the problem then? It's simply done. Looks like you've stabilised, Connor. So we'll hand back over to you.
Do you know what it is? It's so this happened last time, if you remember. I knocked my camera and obviously my camera and mic are plugged into my side of my laptop. I keep knocking that. It's very sensitive, so I'm trying not to move because it seems like the slightest knock on that cable and it takes. And for some reason, StreamYard kicks you out when it does that, which is why it kicked me out the first time. I don't know.
I've got to be honest. If it's sensitive, probably outing it on a national YouTube channel probably isn't going to help it.
No, probably not. It's I need to get a new cable, I think, looking at that, but there we go. Anyway, there's a bit of chat. Obviously, we're talking a lot about crosses and finishing and all the rest of it. Like I said, I want to talk about the second half and the changes and or lack of plan B and the rest of it, because I know a lot of people are talking about the slow block and everything else. But a comment, I'm not going to bring it on screen, but talking about how fans don't want to have a conversation. There's a lot of back and forth going on about Turlings. And you say fans don't want to have a conversation. I do, so I'm going to mention it with regards to Turland, because she is an interesting one. Now, don't get me wrong, like, people know my thoughts on Turland. I was a massive advocate of getting her to United before she came. You can go back and find a video on it from 3 years ago, and I was advocating for her to join United. And I still think she is that elite forward that I think she'll get to. However, I don't think, this is my personal opinion before people start coming for me, I don't think she can say she's not had the service, because I think she is starting to get the service, certainly in the second half of the season. I just don't think she's finishing them as well as maybe she would like to be. And the reason why I bring this up is because we don't really have anyone else. Barring Rachel Williams, we don't have anyone else. Mallard can maybe play as a 9, so maybe that's another option to try there as well. But I think Turland is actually benefiting the team more off the ball than on it at the moment. I don't think she is that prolific striker we're hoping her to be yet, but I think she's benefiting the team massively by dragging defenders out of the way and her movement and running off the ball, which I think is maybe getting a notice. So I know she's getting a lot of stick because I can see it in the chat, which I wanted to mention it. I'm not avoiding the conversation because I have been heavily critical of her at the moment. But as Simon says, she is still young and learning as well. So I think you've got to give her a bit of benefit of doubt. And it's her first season at a massive club where she's going to get criticised and scrutinised for literally everything that she does as well. So no disrespect to Brighton or anywhere else she's been previous, but it's a different level when you come to the media criticism and everything else. So yeah, she will get there as a prolific goal scorer. And to be fair, she still scored good numbers this season. However, I just think she is maybe lashing at a couple of chances. I think again on Saturday she had a chance where she just swings at it and it flies over or it goes massively wide. It's just that bit of composure in front of goal. And I don't think it's just her. I think Melvin's been the same as well this season.
But do you think so? Let's look at Chelsea and Arsenal, because like City do have Bunny Shaw, don't they? She's, no matter what happens, she's going to score 20 plus goals a season if she's not injured, and they've got Miedemar. But if you look at Chelsea and Arsenal, they've got a lot of players that score quite a good number of goals, don't they? So Arsenal obviously have Russo scores, Stina Blackstenia scores, for people have a go at her, but she scores a lot of goals. Ford scores a lot of goals, Mead scores a lot of goals. There's a lot of goals from midfield as well. And then you look at Chelsea and they have a number of players that score quite a lot of goals. So if the out-and-out striker, so if Russo's not scoring, so Bunny Shaw gets 20 a season, Russo's nowhere near that. If she's not scoring 20 a season, there isn't loads of pressure on her to be doing that because there's lots of players around her scoring lots of goals. Turland's maybe feeling under a lot of pressure because there aren't other players around her scoring enough goals. I would argue. I think even Amarim came out and said it, didn't he, when he was talking about Rasmus? He said, yeah, he's not scoring enough goals, but neither are any of the other guys. We can't put the lack of goals down to one player because then that means that everyone else is blameless. There was lots of opportunities for other players to score goals yesterday, and they didn't make the runs and they didn't do this, that and the other. And Connie, you rightly talked about Turland's movement is really good. There was a period of time when her press was phenomenal and we were scoring lots of goals off the back of that. Her movement's really good and she does occupy defenders. So what are the other forwards doing when she's doing that? Are they taking up the space that she's creating? It didn't look to me like they were against West Ham at all. So yes, I would love her to be scoring Bunny Shaw numbers, and she's not at the moment, but unfortunately there haven't been a lot of players around her scoring lots of goals. I think our goal difference looks so healthy because we've conceded so few, I think, rather than us scoring so many. So there's a lot of players that aren't putting up the numbers we perhaps hope that they would be.
And just very quickly, because I know, Barry, you want to jump in on this as well, but it's something that I was noticing when I was going through the stats late last night. And when you're looking at and this is something Barry mentioned on a show about 3 years ago, actually, when you're looking at our shots to compared to shots on target and our percentage, we are 7th when it comes to that this season. So I think we are below Aston Villa, West Ham, Spurs, obviously Arsenal, City. Chelsea are below us, but they've taken a load more shots than us, so their percentage is always going to be slightly lower. It's harder to get that when you've had a lot more. But we are quite poor, really, in terms of our shots and target percentage. And the reason I mention that is because you're right to point out it's not just Turland. You know, when you look at just goals in the WSL this season, Turland's obviously got 9, Galton's 5, Clinton's 7, and then you're looking at 2 and 4, and then you're looking at 1s and 2s. So it's like no one else is up there either. So it's not just me having to go at her, but it is a thing of, well, what is everyone else doing and why aren't we scoring these goals? Because we're getting into the areas, we're just not that clinical. We don't have that cutting edge, I don't think, this season.
I struggle with this sort of argument. So trigger warning, I'm probably going to come across as a bit of a git now. There'll be people here that want to go, oh, we never listen to what people have got to say. It's such an argumentative little so-and-so. But care I not right now. Because there's people genuinely sitting there like, oh, Liz Turland is not the one. Like, she's not better than Russo. Leslie Russo scored 11 goals in the WSL this season. Her Majesty has scored 9. Bunny Shaw scored 12 goals this season. Her Majesty has scored 9. Beth England, best thing since Leslie Russo, has only scored 8. Aggie Beaver Jones, who people just can't stop getting excited over, only 8 goals. Beth Mead, that super Beth Mead, Lioness, winning Manchester United, supporting Beth Mead, only the 7. And what you need to look at here with Liz Turland, and yes, I'm shortening her name because we're not calling her Terry. Bunny Shaw has got 13 goal involvements, 12 and 1 assist. Leslie Russo, 11 and 2, 13. And Queen Elizabeth, 13 also, I'm afraid, in the WSL with 9 and 4. So between them, and she's done that in a game less than Leslie, by the way, just so you know. So I think when you hit things like this, it's a really, important point to remember that, all right, she may not be scoring these huge, massive numbers across the entirety of the season, but in the WSL, she's by far our best striker. She is our best forward. She is the best that we have got in the club at the moment. And we get people saying, she's not better than Russo. She's not worse than Russo. Like, I'm having it that Leslie Russo has gone to Arsenal and is now all of a sudden God's gift to strikers. Don't get me wrong, she's done better than she did at United, but that's because she was young also when she was playing for Manchester United. She's gained experience, and people saying you don't have the time to get experience, you have to give people time. They've only got 22 games. We do not have the resources or the pull factor at the moment to put in ready-made players that are going to beat the likes of Chelsea necessarily all the time. Now, you get people saying that she's missed a lot of big chances. Yes, she has. But she's got to get in the position to make those big chances. It'd be a lot worse if she wasn't. And this is where I agree with you, Connor, because I was saying this at the start of the season. She's not as clinical as she needs to be. But imagine if she was. Like, imagine if she is given a bit of time and a bit of practice and she gets used to it. This is her first season playing with this team, remember. If she was to click, as I think she will, the numbers could be huge. You know, we could be looking at a new Bunny Shaw. So they don't necessarily all walk in and just perform immediately. They need time to sort of settle and do what they're doing. So I just don't think that we can, as you say, just single out one player. The simple fact is we're not getting them from very far anywhere. You mentioned in the WSL, Grace Clinton was 7, which again is the same as your likes of Mead, Amar Wright, and Olivia Smith. You know Olivia Smith, the one that everybody's going wild at the moment. Olivia Smith, that player, scored the same amount of goals as Grace Clinton. But of course, Grace Clinton's not getting that level of chat at the moment because it's Manchester United. And it's fashionable to just make Manchester United seem as though it's just little Manchester United, you know, pretending they're part of the big three. But, you know, never really breaking into it. And actually, it's not the case. It's just not the case that we can sit here and say that they're not doing the level that the WSL are doing. The difference is you've got more of them doing it in other clubs. And that's where you need maybe Leah Goulton to come in with a few more, just a handful more, not a load more. And also as well with Celine Bizet as well. So, you know, she started off brilliantly, but the number of assists that she's racking up is again really quite impressive. So, you know, her assists, 6 of them. So she's had 8 goal involvements as well. And I think the involvements bit is quite important because you don't necessarily have to be the person up front that's scoring all the time if you're setting up the ones for somebody else that does. So, you know, I think really that's the key. But if we're going to start talking about the attack, I'll tell you where I didn't like yesterday. And this was a real shock for me. I didn't like it at all because I would defend this player to the hilt time and time again. But I was not impressed with Rachel Williams when she came on as a substitute on Saturday. And there's 2 moments in particular that really stuck out for me. And it was just being really slow with the ball. Grace Clinton did it a couple of times as well, to be fair. But it was that insistence that when you get in and you're in with the defence, to hold on to the ball when there's a pass available. There was chances where Grace Clinton could have passed the ball back to Jade or to Celine. She didn't. And then we ended up losing the ball. And they nearly went on to go and score from one of those. Same with Rach. She came on and she's so used to holding the ball up. She wasn't trying to go for that quick play. You can't be slow when you're trying to break down a defence. You've got to be quicker and put the pace up to get there. And there was one, I think it was Celine, was in the area, and she may not have got a shot away, but the pass and movement would have worked rather than just standing there trying to protect the ball and then eventually losing it. So twice we lost the ball when we're trying to attack. And I think for me, it's that level of conversation that needs to be had. It's not about the quality of the players because these players have done enough to put in, whether people want to agree with it or not, a title challenge because we've been up there and around and it's mathematically possible still with 3 games to go. So, you know, we've been there and up and about and doing far better than 9 other teams, one of which includes the fabled Manchester City. So I just think that to me is the big issue, is we've got to be more incisive and more creative, I suppose, and quicker around the front 3. And if we do that, we're more likely to get the goals.
Do you also think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but when obviously all the changes have been made, and we obviously had clearly had a back 4, and then we had Bizet, Janssen, Clinton, Mallard, and then we had Williams and Turland. That's right, isn't it? right. So at that point, I thought, okay, we're going 4-4-2 here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get both Williams and Turland in the box, and we're just going to go for it. But we didn't. So Williams came on from the first goal kick that West Ham had after that. I'm fairly certain we set up with Williams playing as sort of a lone striker, and then Turland had moved back deeper and was playing as more of a 10 role, and Clinton had moved back into like more of an 8, like alongside Dominic Janssen. But then what was happening was Rachel Williams was also coming back really deep to win the ball. I don't know if anyone noticed that. So then when we tried to attack, we were almost less, there was less impetus to get the ball into the box because there wasn't really anyone there. Like everyone with the ball was trying to drive with the ball into the box rather than there being anyone in there to receive it at times. And I found that setup really strange. And in hindsight now, you go, oh my gosh, if we'd won that game, it's done. If we won that game because of City yesterday, it would have been done. Champions League would have been done, yes. And I found that odd that Williams came on and there was a conversation where Williams was up front, Turland was dropping back, but then Williams was going so deep to get the ball. She was winning the ball on the halfway line. It was just like, I don't understand what's happening here. I don't understand how this helps us from an attacking point of view. And everyone knows, massive fan of Rachel Williams. I was really worried when we got her in, but 2 seasons ago, she did a brilliant job and she played an important part in the FA Cup final. But I agree with people now. She cannot continue to be the plan B going forwards. I don't think. And I think she's found it difficult this season. She hasn't looked the player she was the last 2 seasons. I'm getting older, and I know I'm not a professional athlete, but when you get older, it gets more difficult, okay, to keep up with people that are younger and probably fitter than you now. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that over the summer. I'm a big fan of her staying in and around the squad and taking on some sort of coaching role. I think that would be really shrewd to do that. But I think we need someone else in to be direct competition for Elizabeth Turland or to play alongside her. I think we don't need to fear. There's this view in football now that you play with one striker. You just play with one striker and that's it. And I don't think we have, I don't like that. It's like, you know how teams are going to set up every season. There's nothing wrong with at times coming on and playing with 2 strikers. United's most successful time in history was when they played with 2 strikers, wasn't it? So I'll be interested to see what happens with that this summer. I think there are really good, people say there's no strikers available because I think often people are thinking about the strikers in the WSL at the big size in the WSL. And yes, they might not be available to us, but there are other strikers around. We talked about Martinez, who played for West Ham yesterday. She was brilliant. I think we did quite a good job to keep her down to 1 or 2 chances, but she's a player that's come into the league this year and hit the ground running and has been really good for West Ham. I think we should be in for her, is my opinion. I would hope we were in the summer. But then you look at someone that I wanted to bring it up if we ever had a conversation about it, but in the French league for Paris FC, there's Matteo, who scores 16, 17 goals every season in the French league, not playing for one of the 2 best sides in the French leagues. So there are strikers out there. Like Matteo, I think, is 26, 27, so she's a bit older than Turland. But we need players that will come in now and score goals now, alongside getting players in that are going to develop and build into what we want them to be in the future. That's just my 2 pence worth.
Especially because on Williams, it's already been referenced in the chat. Like, you bring Williams on, and the one thing, if she's not gonna have the legs to run maybe like the other players are. The one strength of hers is her strength, obviously her hold-up play, but also in the middle, in terms of that finishing. And we stopped doing that the second she came on. It's like, what? Like, that's her game. Like, if you want to do that, start spamming crosses into the box into her, because she will win them and get on the end of them. So I don't know why we stopped doing it. Like you said, we've done this a few times this season where then she was out wide, like on the left, like trying to put the crosses in. I'm like, what's going on here? Like,
yeah,
if you're coming on as Rachel Williams, you do not want her out on the left putting crosses into, I don't know, whoever else is in the middle at the time. Stick her in the middle and get someone else out on the left to put the crosses in.
You just say to her, because she's like a bulldozer, isn't she? You say to her, say to the other players, you need to get the ball into the box, because I'd back Rachel Williams to be 2-on-1 against 2 centre-backs and still win the ball in the air. I still think she's got that element to her game. So that's where you want her. You want her there occupying, frustrating, annoying the centre-backs, because then that also gives Turland the opportunity to get on the end of one of those crosses as well, or balls into the box. It was a lot of substitutions, but they didn't, how it was set up, they didn't really impact the game. Someone else has talked about Melvin as a top quality striker. She is. She's not had the opportunity that when she comes on, it's always as a wide player, because again, she's got that element to her game. But it's very, and again, I sometimes think to myself, is it mad that I'm saying this? Because we're in an FA Cup final again. We're in a really good position to get top 3. But I'm just always thinking about what is the next step. Because in the WSL, you can be in the top 3, but not be competing for the league every year. Couldn't you? Because of how good Chelsea are. And if you're not competing with Chelsea, you're going to find it very difficult to compete in the Champions League, because Chelsea are the best of what we've got in this country at the moment. So what is the next step? And I think we need to look at not even who our backup striker is, but direct competition for Turland. That's what I think. Or a striker that's also brilliant, and you play them both. But then it creates that uncomfortable conversation, not for us, because fans would talk about it, but the coaching staff of, 2 strikers, but then we can only play 2 of our brilliant 4 midfielders. We don't want to do that. Well, sometimes you're going to have to do that. And I thought that's what they were doing against West Ham, but they weren't.
I think that's the thing. I just want to bring it back very quickly. There's 2 very quick points I just wanted to mention that have been going on for the last kind of 10 minutes. So if you haven't already, make sure you vote on the poll. It is incredibly close. The poll, there's 2% at the moment. I can see it between the top 2, and there's only about an 8% down to third. So it's really close between those 3 on this one. That's Tullis-Joyce, Riviere, and Bizet. So make sure you get your votes on that one. Obviously, Barry was mentioned a bit earlier on about the goal scored and everything like that. And it's interesting. I was just double checking it. This is probably going to be one of the lowest in terms of who gets the golden boot. This is going to be one of the lowest, like it's been for years, in terms of numbers, because Bunny Shaw hit 21 last season. Daly was 22 the year before, Kerr 20 the year before that, Kerr 21 the year before that. So it's always in the 20s, or it has been for the last 4 or 5 years. This year, Russo's probably going to win it, and it's probably going to be on about 12 or 13 at the most, unless she goes on some mental scoring run in their final 3 games for Arsenal. So I think across the league, the goals have dropped in terms of an out-and-out scorer. And don't get me wrong, Bunny Shaw has missed pretty much all the season, which I still find mental. She is the top scorer still, and she's missed about 3 months. So that shows her level and how much she scored at the start of the season when she was fit and well, when she was playing anyway. Because I think maybe she would have hit probably 20 again, because she's just that good. In that sense. So I don't think it's a bad thing on Turner. That's the point I was trying to make, was it's not necessarily a bad thing on Turner. The numbers across the board from everyone have dropped when you look at the last kind of 4 or 5 years on that one. So there's that as well. But yeah, I tend to agree. And this is what I go back to, in terms of what is our plan B. Our plan B essentially, and I don't want to make a big thing of this, but I have to say, and everything else, but this is why, again, when you look at the bench, what is 2 goalkeepers and not a Married Griffiths or somebody like that on the bench? What is that doing? Because in a game like this, why not? 10 minutes to go, stick Married up front, a bit of a dynamic winger. Someone West Ham might not be, it's not known to them as such, because it's not someone to necessarily prepare for. Somebody like that could just add something different that is going to run, like I always say this, the youngsters will run 10 times harder than everyone else out there, because they're trying to prove a point to get themselves into the first team more often. That's where it bugs me, because it's like, that's a kind of game, 5-10 minutes, you don't start them. I'm not saying that, but again, I just look at the bench and I think, well, there you go. Sporty, we're on the same wavelength. This is what I mean. This is where you have someone like her. There are others, but someone like her on the bench that can just have that something different. 2 goalkeepers and whatever else, because we don't have anyone else. Because obviously, with the players we've got out on loan and everything else, But
we've even had times. Have we had times this season as well where we can't even put on a full bench of first team players?
We've done it quite a few times, yeah.
Yeah, again, that's a disappointment when, again, for me, when I think about what is at the heart of Manchester United Football Club, and it is a route through for academy players. And if you can't even put them on the bench when you haven't got a full bench, I think that's. I remember a couple of seasons ago, Pep Guardiola doing that for Man City and being like, that would never be us. That would never, ever be us. We would always put some of the young players, we'd bring them through into first team squad training, like Ruben's done, and we'd get them on the bench in and around it. Because they're not going to say no, are they? They're going to be all over that, the youth players. And to just not do it. But again, I think, do you think that's from the outside looking in, like it just looks a little bit like weak to me. Oh, I don't want to have an awkward conversation and tell one of these goalkeepers that they're not going to be in the matchday squad. Oh, speaking of the goalkeepers, by the way, Rendell, watching her warming up, she looked class. She looked really good in the warm-ups. Tooney was not lobbing her for fun in the warm-up. And I watched her a season ago lob Fallon in the warm-up. It's just that's something that will never sit right with me.
There's a lot of people talking about the loaning, and I'm not sure. Obviously, I don't think that Manchester United have loaned Emma Watson, for example, to Everton with the expectation that Everton aren't going to play her. Like the entire point of the situation is that you send a player on loan so they start games, and so they are getting more game time. A la Grace Clinton last season with Spurs. Did we all agree with it? No. Did we like it? No. Was it horrible watching her become one of the best players for Spurs and then have to miss out on the FA Cup final? I mean, yes, because we won that. But, it wasn't nice for her. But that's the whole point. It's helped to mould her into the player that she is. So, listen, the thing with Emma Watson is you've got two things there that you've then got to look at. Is she as good as people are making out? Now, I don't know. I'm just asking. But if she's going to Everton and she's not starting, Everton, by the way, there's a reason for that. Everton have just drawn with Man City. So, I don't know. It is the honest answer. But people are talking about this as if there's not a plan. There is a plan, obviously. And the plan is that the players that they've got, they think are the ones that are going to change the game. I totally agree with the thing about the youngsters. It's not about the ones we've loaned in and loaned out. We've just got to get over that and accept it. And accept that, for me, that's a failure on Skinner's part for not wanting to end the loan and bring her in if there's the opportunity for her to feature more, even if it is off the bench for these last few games. But I just think, honestly, for me, the key thing there is that we should absolutely have other youngsters on the bench who could come on and give them the chance, because you never know what they can do until you give them the chance. And you've got to give them that responsibility. Like, people wouldn't have expected Mara to come on and score 2 in the FA Cup, but she did. And, no, not necessarily against the most classic of football teams, but she still did it. And it was because she was given that chance. 2 goalkeepers on the bench is a waste of space. And I completely agree with Charlie. I think there is a little bit there of, we'll just put both of you on there. It's good experience for you to be in and around the match day squad. And yes, it is, but you can still do that without being physically on the bench. Like, if you're going to do that and muck about with it, name one of them one week and one of them the other week. That's how you really want to play it. But, you need to understand, we're not Chelsea. We don't need 5 million goalkeepers. You need one, and one who can stand in from if they're not there. And that's it, really. And the third one, if you have to have one, comes from your youth. So it's, in that respect, quite frustrating, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think as well, it's easy to...
Just wanted to answer back to this. Can we please just stop making excuses for the girls in blue? Like, I don't remember when we were having injury crises galore at the back and we had to play Gemma Evans and, we were throwing people out at left back and right back, and poor old Thor was having to
Zellum
be official. And we had Zellum at one point. Hayley Ladd had to go in there. Nobody was giving Mark Skinner the time of day then, going, he's got loads. It was just, you had to deal with it. So you've got to deal with it. You can only do what you do. Arsenal have had injury crisis. City have had it. Chelsea they do have them, but they've just got so many players. They've got it now. And I'll tell you what, if they go on to lose the WSL to Arsenal, it would probably be now, because they've had a few injuries. People will be whinging about that as well. And yes, they'll all go, you never would have won it. But you can't control what ifs, if Russo had stayed, if Casey Stoney had stayed. It just ain't happened. There's no ifs. You just got to deal with what has happened. If we'd have beaten West Ham, we'd only be 3 points away from Chelsea. If we'd beaten Chelsea, we'd be level on points. Actually, no, we wouldn't. We'd be ahead of them. So, if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean. And thank God it's not. But if climate change carries on, it might be soon.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't like this. Like James has said there, that game at the Emirates will haunt me. That first half at the Emirates will haunt me forever. But like you said, you go back a couple of years ago when we were playing, it was a partnership of Zellum and Turner. And I think Turner had to go off or Zellum had to go off at one point. And it was like, then like Thor had to play out of position. It was just like, but again, you look at Arsenal, a couple of seasons ago, I think they did finish in the top 3 in the end. But they had an injury crisis like no other. And to be fair, like you just mentioned, Chelsea do have a lot of injuries this season. The difference with Chelsea, because they've got about 35 players, it doesn't look as bad. But they've had a lot of injuries this season, Chelsea. But it's just not as noticed because their squad is so stacked that they've got world-class players to bring in replace them. So it doesn't really, whereas for other clubs, that's not always the case. So yeah, so I don't like this kind of. I don't look back at. Don't get me wrong. I look back at that one Everton draw a couple of seasons ago. I think, if we'd have won that, but like, it's easy as a United fan. We can say that. Like Barry to say, if we'd have beaten West Ham, we'd have been. Well, any team can say that. If City would have won yesterday, they'd have been better off. If City would have done something else, if Arsenal would have won, so every team can say, if we would have won that one, we would have done this. So I think it swings and roundabouts when you're looking at a whole season. Everything now. RC, your comment did make me laugh earlier on. I don't know if you know. Keep calling Chelsea Blueco, which is really making me laugh on this one. But and it was against West Ham a couple of years ago as well. But there we go again, Blueco. Yes, your tweets do make me laugh. Right, I'm going to end the player of the match poll in about yes, James. We were in the trenches back then.
Oh God, do you remember that? That was absolutely devastating, wasn't it?
Now that's an injury crisis. I think City have got theirs in attack. We had ours.
It doesn't matter when it's United, though, does it? Like it doesn't matter when it's United men. Everyone says, "Oh, just get on with it." Barry's right. Like, even the pundits say it. They either don't mention it or they say, "Oh, what's the problem? They spent loads of money." Any other side, oh, we've got some players with little niggles, which means they can't play.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the player of the match poll in about 5 minutes or so. Oh, it's dead level. First is dead level right now. So if you want to get your votes in, it's massively important. I think if you there's 4%. So the top 2 are level, and Fallon in third is 4% behind. This is going to be really close for who finishes first on that one. But before I end the poll, I want to just quickly talk about this running, because I put a poll out earlier on. There you go, another poll on Twitter earlier, asking where fans think we're going to finish, because when we drew, obviously we didn't know what the City result was going to be, when we drew to West Ham. But there was a lot of, I guess, concern that, maybe we'd drop out the top 3 now, looking at the final 3 games that we've got. Then obviously City went on to draw anyway. The poll results from Twitter, over 400 votes in this one. 4% say first. Don't quite know who's voting first, but there we go. 4% say first, 17% say second, 70% say third. So that's where the majority thinking, and 9% do think we'll drop out in 4th place. Charlie, looking at the 3 games, we need one more win or a draw in the derby, and that is enough. And that's providing City win their other 2, which, like I say, is not a given right now either. Are you worried for top 3, or do you still think we're pretty comfortable in the position we're in?
I would expect us to get top 3. I think if you are 7 points above 4th, which is what we are, right? So we're 7 points above 4th with 3 games to go. I think if we don't do it from that position, I don't care I wouldn't even care if I had to play Chelsea 3 times before the end of the season. If we, I don't want to say the B word, but if we lose it from this position, I think that is catastrophic. I think that is absolutely woeful, if I'm being honest. To lose it from the position we're in now, serious questions need to be asked about it. And I know, people will talk about there is a lack of experience in the team, and nerves set in. But you're an elite athlete. You play for Manchester United Football Club. That comes with pressure. And if you're a coach at Manchester United, the expectation is that you are competing and you get in Champions League football. That's what the expectation should be. I think to say it shouldn't be that, I think, is lowering the standard. So, yeah, to not get it from this position, I think that would make me really angry as a fan. That would make me cross. if I'm being honest.
Especially because one of our 3 games is against the team that is chasing us at home. So you would expect, like I said, we only need a draw. That's literally it. Just a point in that game, and that is enough. And we can lose the other 2. Not that I want us to, but we could theoretically lose the other 2 and just draw that one, and we've done enough. So we shouldn't, when you're looking at it from that respect. And, we've played City 3 times now, and we've beaten them twice already. So, we should be, I guess, favourites. Obviously, Truth mentioning Shaw and Greenwood. I've got no idea. Hemp should be back, or she will be back for the derby. Greenwood and Shaw, I've got no idea by the time we get to that one. And as Xavier's mentioned, yellow cards is also still a thing. I think, is it Maya, Grace? Is there 2 players or 3 players that are 1 away from a suspension now? Maya definitely is. Grace definitely is. I don't know whether it's just those 2 or whether we've got somebody else, but those 2 in particular are 1 card away from missing a game as well. So
Gabby George has already done her suspension, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's on 6.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. So they've got to be really careful against Chelsea. Because, to be fair, I'm not too fussed if they miss Arsenal. Because, if we get top 3 wrapped up by then, that Arsenal game is just more of a pride thing. Because we'll have the cup final the week after. So it really depends where we are when we get to that. In that respect. But yeah, May needs to be careful against Chelsea.
Does it? Unless we beat them, then it won't matter. If they get a yellow card in the Arsenal game, does that keep them out of the FA Cup? Does it?
No, it doesn't carry over.
Okay, good. If we manage to beat Chelsea, she can get a yellow card if she wants. As far as I'm concerned, she can get a red. I don't care. As long as we beat them. But yes, it's Gareth is the man. Gareth, you and Barry. I'd hate to say it, but you might be spirit animals with Barry, because Gareth's saying we'll beat Chelsea and the angst will evaporate. So fingers crossed. That happened.
Barry, same kind of question to you then. Any worries? I think you put it in our chat that I don't think you said you were worried, but you said we just made it difficult for ourselves, really. In that respect, just kind of unnecessary pressure that maybe we didn't need on ourselves. I'm assuming you'll still stand by the fact we'll get top 3 from here, but is there a slight concern looking at the 3 games?
I have no concerns. I do completely agree with what Chelsea said. I'm so sorry. With what Charlie said. God, that's atrocious. Could have called her worse. Chelsea's actually my boss. I completely agree with what Charlie said. It would be catastrophic if we were to not get 3rd from this position. Bearing in mind we only need the 3 points. The simple truth is that I don't think it'll really matter what we do in those matches. I don't think it's going to be a case of Man United necessarily winning it. I think Man City will just continue stumbling. They're on a downward trajectory. So I think their race is run. If I am honest with you, the last 4 games, they're only won 1 and drawn 2. They need to draw another one, and that's pretty much good night nurse there. So no dramas on that one for me. But I voted. I was one of the 4%, Connor. It's one of the 4%, and I was one of the 4% because I started the season with this optimism, and damn it, I will end this season with the optimism. And when we go on to go and beat Chelsea on Wednesday after they've been thoroughly humiliated further by Barcelona at the weekend, it will be a wonderful moment when we take advantage of them crying into their spilt milk and defeat them, which will be a rather wonderful moment. And of course they'll probably go on and beat Spurs, but that won't matter because we'll go on and beat Manchester City, and then of course in that final day we'll go on to beat Arsenal, and Liverpool will, unsurprisingly, because they'll need the win to finish above Brighton, and prove you right, because Brighton at that point will be 7th in the table. They will pull out all the stops and get the required result for us to finish top of the table. So why not is what I would ask. Why not?
I think when you're looking at it from that, well, I don't agree, but I do think Chelsea will drop more points because I just don't think they look. It's annoying, really, isn't it? Because they look a bit all over the place now. Now, don't get me wrong, Barcelona are the best team in Europe for a reason, but I don't think they did anything that other teams couldn't do against Chelsea. And Chelsea, to be fair, in recent weeks, they've scraped by, like in terms of getting the odd wins here. And don't get me wrong, you could argue that's what champions do, and that's fine. But they do look more beatable than they have done. And I do hope, we've got 9 days until we play them now. I do just hope we just go out. And we've got nothing to lose. We may as well just go for them, in that particular game on the 30th and see how it goes. So from that point of view, yeah, go out and see what happens and go from there. There's obviously a lot of chat about Kira Walsh. She's not been good, has she? Since she joined Chelsea, in that respect. But they're not getting any sympathy from me. The amount of money they pay for players and wages and everything else. But there we go. So yes, we'll wait and see what happens. It's going to be this month. What we got? Yeah, it's about 3-4 weeks, isn't it? We've got is going to be absolutely massive for all of us, I think, because a top 3 finish in a cup final is and a potential title, if Barry is right, is quite something to look forward to. So we'll get through all of that. Right, you've got about 2 minutes before I end the poll, so I'm going to go around the panel and ask who they would have. Let me correct myself before Charlie has a go at me. Who they voted for, not who they would have voted for. Charlie, who was your player of the match versus West Ham? She's on mute as well.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I went a little bit left field, and to celebrate her pretty much winning the Golden Glove, I voted for PTJ again. I was just too frustrated by the play from all the players not in goal. So she kind of got my vote because I was more irritated at everyone else rather than her doing anything particularly spectacular other than her job, which is not conceding. So she did her job brilliantly on Saturday, as far as I'm concerned, by not conceding a goal.
I think that's fair. Barry?
I voted for Celine Bizet. I thought she was. It had to be between Celine and Jade for me. They were unquestionably the 2 best players on the pitch for United. I think I'll pronounce the name wrong, but Uiki, she did incredibly well for them. It was absolutely superb in the middle. But I think for us, it has to be one of those 2, and you can flip a coin and see which way it lands really for that one. But by virtue of the fact that she came the closest to scoring, I went with Celine.
Yeah, I think that's if we're picking non-United players, Oweki for West Ham was. I mean, every game I've watched of West Ham, she is just so good. She's not going to be at West Ham for much longer. I don't think there'll be a much bigger club. I think they're coming from.
Their whole front 3. Connor, was it before? Did I say it on the show? Was it before the show when
me and you were chatting about it before? Yeah.
I was saying I wonder if that front 3 of West Ham's will be dismantled this summer. And oh my gosh, I hope we are involved in the conversation. I really do. Being part of the Champions League helps us be part of that conversation.
How old is Oweki now? She can't be that old. Or is
Who cares?
25.
Imagine
so,
her and
still...
Miyazawa. Her and Miyazawa. Yes.
And I say this a lot when I'm talking about Hinnix. Obviously, that's our United rep. But I think when you're just looking at Japanese footballers in general, it's just that football intelligence. The IQ is just on a different level, and that goes a very long way in that respect. And she's a very, very good technical footballer as well, Oweki as well. So
there was that move she did where she took it down from in the air. Do you remember when Juan did that?
How would she kept that in?
Oh yeah, she put it down from there and then just turned and she was gone. I just love stuff like that. I remember Mata doing it for United early on in his career, and it just sent the crowd wild. It was like that.
Especially because the camera was right above that on the TV broadcast. It was like, how on earth she kept that in? So if we were giving it to a non-United player, I'd be voting for her every day of the week. However, so Charlie, you've gone Fallon, Barry's gone Celine. I feel like I've got to go Jade just to be different. It's between those 2. It's Jade and Celine, and I think I agree with Barry. You could probably flip a coin, and it's either one of those. In that respect, because I just think both of them. I don't think we have any attacking output really without those 2 in terms of what they did. I think obviously Bizet hit the bar early and kind of midway through the first half. Jade obviously put the most crosses. I think she had the most chances created in the game as well, and won the most tackles as well. So I think you could put it to either of them, to be honest. And I'm going to have to say someone I can't sit on the fence here, but maybe I'll just go for Maya just to give it to somebody else. No, I mean I came away from the game saying Jade. It's in our group chat. That's what I said straight away. So I think I should probably stand by that. But to be honest, either of those two should be more than worthy winners. Let's end the poll because I don't actually know I can't see the percentage now. Here we go. Jay Riviere 34, Celine Bizet 30, Fallon tullis-joyce 28, Mela Tissier 6. I don't know if that adds up to 100. It probably doesn't because it never does. But yeah, pretty close on this one between those ones as well. And I'm fairly sure. Let me double check this before. I should have this over. I never think of these things while we're live. I just want to double check where we are in terms of our player of the match votes for the season. So obviously we've only got 4 games left now after this one. So what's that? That's Jade's third one. So we are going to be close between Clinton, Miyazawa, Turland, Jade, and maybe Celine and Maya because they're all on two upwards. I think Hinny's on the most with 4. So it's going to be tight for who gets the most player of the matches on here come the end of the season.
It is, but that's another thing. When you sit and talk about how last season, Lucia just ran away with it effectively. It was relying very much on one player to perform well every single week. But what we are seeing here is a bit more of a spread, which shows that the players are all having good moments. We just need them to potentially have a few more all together at the same time, rather than sort of standing out individually amongst a group of players that are doing okay, but not smashing it out of the park necessarily.
No, absolutely. So there you go. Congrats, Jane. That's your third one of the season on All for United UWC. So there we go. Cool. Right. Well, let's wrap it up there. So I think we've covered pretty much everything. There we go. Didn't I say at the start of this? Oh, there's not going to be loads to go through. We've only got just 0-0. There's not loads to talk about. And there's only 3 of us. We still managed to go for an hour and 16 minutes talking through pretty much everything. When will we next be back? Obviously, there's no game this weekend coming up, so we've got a bit of time. We do have a different kind of show coming. I don't know when it's going to be planned in there, so I'm not going to commit to a date. But that'll be some point in the next kind of week or so. And then the Chelsea preview will be next Monday as we look ahead to that game on the Wednesday night. On that one as well. So exciting times. I said busy 3-4 weeks to look forward to. All of our socials are All for United WFC, so follow us on all of those. Instagram, TikTok, X / Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you're liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. I believe Barry's live on All for Women's Football. Are you doing a show? There we go. In 9 minutes. Yeah.
Be about 10 minutes, yeah. Have a moment, go make a cup of tea, decompress. But yeah, it should be good. Got a lot to talk about. What with the Champions League happening over the weekend, of course, we'll run over a little bit more over what's happened with City losing their ground that they could have potentially pulled back. And yeah, we'll be travelling to Italy a little bit as well because Juventus are champs and Inter Milan are in the Champions League for the first time. Maybe Manchester United will draw them.
There we go. So make sure you go and check that out as well. And that's all for women's football as well. Like I said, make sure you like in this video and subscribe if you're new around here. I know there's a lot of new people watching because I can see it in our stats and everything when I look through all of that. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks to all of you in the chat. You've been absolutely brilliant as always. Have a good week all. It's back to work tomorrow for the majority of us, which is really depressing. But there we go. Make sure you have a good week. We'll be back in the next one. Have a good one.